The following video is a video that's available on my Patreon page, and every once in a while I'll take a Patreon video and post it on here on YouTube, excuse me, um, because I like to give people kind of a rough idea of some of the content that you can find on my Patreon website, and there's hours and hours and hours of bonus material that you will never find here on YouTube. So again, every once in a while I'll take a video, throw it here on YouTube, in hopes that it'll catch people's interest and maybe inspire them to go check out the website. There's a ton of information on there. You can join the community of like-minded individuals, and it's just a good place to go if you're interested in getting a hold of me. If you have questions and want to talk to me one-on-one, this is the best way to do it. I wish I could respond to messages here on YouTube. I do my best to get a hold of people, but I just can't keep up with the volume anymore of questions and comments that I'm getting. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a first line, I already messed it up. Welcome to a new video. This is going to be an interesting video. It's going to be kind of a slow-paced video, and it's probably going to be a little bit on the longer side. So I know a few people have contacted me and said, can you make shorter videos? These are rather long. And I know some of you guys don't have time to watch these 30-minute to an hour-long videos. So what I will do, and what I have been trying to do, is take the longer videos and break them up into 5 to 10 minute segments and then posting them as their own videos. And that way people who don't have time or don't want to watch a hour-long video can watch little clips and whatnot and derive the information as needed. But in this video, you guys, I want to talk about a handful of things. I want to talk about an herb known as Gynostemma pentaphyllum. I want to talk a little bit about ginseng. I want to talk about the tonic herbs of traditional Chinese medicine. I want to talk about magic, what magic is. I want to kind of do my best to give kind of a synopsis of what real magic truly is in contrast of what it truly isn't. Now, I'm not talking about pulling rabbits out of hats. No, ladies and gentlemen, magic essentially, there are so many different ways to define it because magic is rather malleable based on an individual's interpretation of the science. But to me, magic is essentially, and I resonate with Philip Cooper's definition of magic, one of my favorite authors on the subject of magic. He refers to magic as the science of controlled thinking to attain a physical result. Ladies and gentlemen, again, magic is the art and science of controlled thinking to produce a physical result. Now, obviously, this is a very short, kind of brief synopsis of what magic is. You could fill entire books with description of what magic is and the mechanics of how it works. Now, obviously, I don't want to bore people. I'm trying not to. So I'm trying to summarize things in brief ways that kind of demonstrate the overall subject. I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to give you guys brief definitions that can kind of point in the direction of what magic is from what it isn't. But magic, essentially, you guys, is the mechanical modus operandi, or the operating system or operating software of the law of attraction, at least when we're talking about practical magic. Now, I've talked about practical magic in previous videos in the Learning the Magical Arts series, and practical magic, essentially, you guys, is magic that helps you get your life on point. It helps you get the things that you need in life situated. It helps you work out the kinks and the struggles in your life so that you can have a life of peace and happiness and abundance. Something that is every person's birthright, but we've forgotten that because we live in a crazy world that fills you full of beliefs and superstition and makes you think that, life is all about struggling and overexerting yourself and nothing but hard work. There are so many different programs that we've adopted from our parents and our siblings and our friends and their families and our grandparents and our ancestors. Some of these beliefs are psychosomatic, and some of these are, in my opinion, somewhat genetic. Some of these belief patterns that we harbor as adults, I would say a majority of the beliefs that we harbor that are toxic we've kind of self-cultivated by living in a fear-based world, a fear-based reality. And I'll talk about that in a minute, a little bit further. But I do believe that some of these belief patterns that are ruining our lives, and I'll talk about why beliefs are either ruin our lives or uplift our lives in a little bit. But I do believe that some of these beliefs are actually ingrained into our genetics. So magic, ladies and gentlemen, is the art and science of purging our minds from these negative beliefs and these superstitions and all of the emotional and mental and all of the unconscious afflictions and the subconscious afflictions that are causing our minds to create a reality that is not in par with the reality that we want. So again, I'm going to try to do my best to define things in this video, you guys. I'll probably say I apologize a lot, because as I say these things, I can, it's such a broad subject that it's hard for me to try to, create a synopsis, so to speak, without, filling a book. It's hard to take subjects that take books to describe and make a 20 to 30 minute or even an hour-long video just explaining them. But magic, you guys, someone recently asked me, what is the point of magic? I thought this was a healing channel. Well, ladies and gentlemen, magic is not only the art and science of controlled thinking to attain a physical result, but it's also the art and science of true healing. Because once you understand that magic is the art and science of controlled thought to create a physical result, you will realize that there are things in your mind that are causing you to not be able to obtain the life that you want. Magic is the art and science of not only controlled thinking to obtain a physical result, but it's the art and science of purging and cleansing the mind of the belief patterns and the unconscious structures that are keeping us from being able to attract, with the law of attraction, the things that we want and need in life. So obviously, the law of attraction is real. This has been proven time and time again. It is your birthright to be able to manifest the things that you want, but only if your subconscious mind can be fed the correct information. So we live in a culture where we fed the subconscious mind illegitimate information from a very young age. By the time we were 10 years old, by the time we were 10 years old, ladies and gentlemen, we developed most of our subconscious belief patterns that are still afflicting us here as adults in this matrix. Most of these belief patterns are based on religious superstition, poverty, a lack of self-confidence, and a lack of self-love. This culture will take you if you do not catch on quickly. And it will ruin your mind, ladies and gentlemen. And magic is the art and science of healing the mind that has been afflicted by the matrix in this toxic world. I'm not trying to sound negative, ladies and gentlemen, but the more you clean your vessel, your body and your mind, the more you will realize that the external world is a massive, deceptive illusion that is very toxic and very dangerous to your continuity. The outside world is filled full of chance. It's filled full of people who commit crime and do heinous acts to good people. We live in a world where bombs are dropped on innocent nations and people are blown to pieces so small that you couldn't even put them back together. Magic is the art and science of cleaning your mind of the garbage that has been put into it from this crazy world that is built on a foundation of evil. So I'm not trying to sound negative in any way, shape, or form, but the truth is the truth regardless of how it comes out. Magic is the art and science of you creating your destiny. But in order for you to do that, in order to shape your reality, you first have to heal your mind. You have to heal the unconscious layers of filth that have been put there. Right now, you can think of it as our minds are filled full of dust, and those dust are representative of belief patterns and negative thoughts, negative emotions. We have to learn to become truly happy. We have to learn to turn the anger switch off. Now, you may be saying, but you just talked so passionately about how evil the world is. Just because I talk passionately, I might sound angry at the world, doesn't mean that I am. I am not angry at the world, ladies and gentlemen. I do, however, use the world as a reminder that I don't want anything to do with that. I will create my own reality based on my own virtues and what I believe to be right. Because obviously, anyone who has their blinders off even slightly can see that there's some imbalances in this world. You can have the life that you want, ladies and gentlemen, but it's going to require healing. So to summarize, to attempt to summarize that question that I was recently asked about, I thought this was a healing channel. Why do you talk about magic? Well, magic, ladies and gentlemen, is the science of healing. The physical body, the mind, the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind. If there's any part of your life that is out of alignment, it means that you require healing. Now, magic is a very valid tool to heal those afflictions, depending on what type of magic you're using, because there's so many different branches of magic here in 2018. Most of them built on superstition and absolutely erroneous. It just blows my mind how much superstition and mental illness there is, ladies and gentlemen, in the world of magic. I am a fan of ritual magic. I use ritual magic to create patterns in my life that are built on righteousness, and I'll explain that in just a few. I want to sip some tea with you guys really quick, and then we'll continue talking about magic. I might name this video Defining Magic, or who knows? Defining Magic might be a good title for this video. I'm going to do my best to explain what magic is from what it isn't, because there's so many different ways of defining it. But you can use magic to heal yourself, because magic, ladies and gentlemen, is not waving wands in the air and, chanting words of power and all this mumbo jumbo. It's essentially the art and science of going into your mind and critically analyzing yourself and your psyche and looking at the things that need improvement with an unbiased lens, being honest with yourself. And we do this through ritual. We do this through meditation, specific meditations. We do this through, we incorporate sound into our ritual. We incorporate smells into our rituals, because smells, ladies and gentlemen, affect different parts of the brain, and we can pinpoint certain things that we want to change or learn about ourselves and associate those things with a certain smell. I'll talk about that in just a moment, but we can use smell to stimulate parts of the brain that are directly associated with the thing that we're trying to work on. For instance, love has a very close association with the smell of roses. You could use the smell of roses with meditation and ritual to help stimulate those parts of your mind. Now, obviously, this is a vast subject, and I'm making magic seem kind of simple. And even though it is simple, because there's power in simplicity, I'm not going to be able to completely explain everything in this video. I need you guys, if you're interested in learning more, to pick up some books. I'm going to do my best to kind of explain things and kind of give you supplementary information in relation to the books that I recommend. But it's, to learn about magic, it's going to require you to read some books, because there are certain things. I'm not saying that I'm some master magician. I will say that I probably know a little bit more than the average individual who is interested in magic. A lot of the people who are interested in magic and even practice magic are not only doing it wrong, but their minds haven't been scrubbed clean of all the garbage, the filth. Because again, 95% or more of of magic, ladies and gentlemen, is built on superstition. A lot of people think that magic is, you're summoning spirits and you're summoning all this angels and demons and things like that. Real magic is you traveling inward so that you can learn about yourself and tweak the things that are not correct, so that you can attract things in your life that you want, so that you can attain health. A lot of us have these viruses in our systems, in our emotional field, in our mental field, in our psychic levels, in our subtle levels, and so on the auric levels. Magic is the art and science of taking a microscope, spiritual microscope, and looking at all of the imperfections on not only our physical body, but our auric bodies, mental bodies, emotional bodies, you name it, so that we can pinpoint the virus, and through ritual and meditation and introspection, transmute those imperfections, like turning lead into gold. We can only change an issue once we acknowledge it, and we can only acknowledge an issue We can only acknowledge an issue, ladies and gentlemen, through conscious recognition. Magic is the art of looking or finding the issues in our lives so that we can hone in on them and create a way to transmute it. Magic is alchemy. Excuse me. Let's pour a little tea, you guys. If you've made it this far in this video, I would think it would be very beneficial if you pause right now, go put some water on the stove, go turn your electric kettle on, get yourself some tea, make a nice pot, and then come back and join me. Pause it right now. I think it would be very beneficial if you did that. So if you're going to, just hit the pause button right now and come back and we will continue. But I've got some Gynostemma tea here, ladies and gentlemen. This is one of my favorite teas. This is a traditional, this is a tonic herb in the traditional Chinese medicine system. There are 26 to 27 superior herbs in the traditional Chinese medicine system. And these herbs are an elite class of herbs that can be consumed every day. Most herbs that people are taking in the West are considered, in the traditional Chinese medicine literature, they're considered inferior herbs. Herbs that have a medicinal quality but are only supposed to be taken for a predetermined short period of time. Things like milk thistle, things like echinacea. A lot of people take this stuff every day, not even aware of the fact that it's damaging their health. So I've talked about this in the past, and I'm just going to briefly bring it up really quick before we talk a little bit more about magic and book recommendations. Philip Cooper, The Magician. This is a very somewhat rare book. Copies of this go up to $1,000 on eBay. I used Magick to attain one of these, and it worked. I got one for $80. And the individual was asking, I believe, $900. So I set the intention quite a while ago to attain one of these while I was in a meditative state inside my inner temple during a magical ritual, and this ended up manifesting not that long afterwards. Before I talk more about the tea, I just brought up the inner temple thing, so I want to just discuss that really quickly before we continue. I also happened to manifest one of these. A lot of people who are interested in Philip Cooper's works aren't aware of this book. This is The Techniques of Magic, Practical Magic by Philip Cooper. This is his first book that he ever published. Another rare gem that I have obtained somewhat recently. I just mentioned the inner temple, and the inner temple is absolutely essential for anyone who is interested in learning how to practice magic, as I talk about it here on the Patreon page. And I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, that I've gone through so many years of trial and error trying to find a system of magic that actually truly works. Now, I've been practicing a form of magic that worked very, very well for years before I stumbled across Philip Cooper's works, and that is natural magic. That is like candle magic and using herbs in magic. Essentially, it's this. I've used the system, a modified system of natural magic that incorporates aspects of hoodoo, Hoodoo. And for anyone who is interested in learning more about that, I'll make videos talking about hoodoo in the future. But go onto Google and type in hoodoo. It's African American folk magic. It's also known as root work or conjure, and they call it root work because it's designed to help an individual get their rooting in life and get all the things situated in their life that are out of alignment, such as finances, love, peace of mind, and things like that. Root work is designed to help you get the stuff in the material plane done so that you can build a foundation. And then once you have freedom and peace and finances, then you can continue your magical work and then go from practical magic to esoteric magic. And esoteric magic is different than practical magic, ladies and gentlemen. Practical magic is all about getting the things in the practical world situated, in the mundane world, such as finances, love, things like that, happiness. And then esoteric magic is using magic to understand the mechanics of how the cosmos works and how the planets affect us and things like that. So the two are very different. But the foundation of any magician is the foundation of, you can't really approach esoteric work with validity or properly unless you have your foundation laid. And you have to have your foundation laid before you can approach esoteric magic, because you're going to need a lot of things situated in your life. You're going to have a certain amount of freedom in finances if you want to pursue magic as a life purpose or a life calling. But the inner temple, ladies and gentlemen, is something that I really wanted to talk about, and even give you guys an exercise on how to do it here on the Patreon page. But Philip Cooper, I got the inner temple thing from Philip Cooper. It's in all of his books, and I don't want to. I want you guys to support his work if you're interested in magic, and I want you guys to learn about the inner temple by obtaining his books. I'll talk a little bit about what the inner temple is, but I'm not going to give you guys the exercise. I want you guys to go out and, make an investment. Invest in yourself. Investing in the right forms of magic. You're buying or you're investing in a set of tools to help you tap into the creative abundance, the infinite amount of energy in this cosmos. By investing in these books, you're learning how to use the 4 elements in the kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of earth to manifest whatever it is that you want in life. So someone, $13 for this book. I would, if this book was out of publish, I would pay over $400 for this book. And this isn't even my favorite of Philip Cooper's books. This is a great book, however. Candle Magic. This is still in print, $13. My favorite book of Philip's currently is The Magician. Now, obviously, this is a little bit more expensive. There's a lot of information in both of these books that aren't in, there's information that's absolutely crucial in this book that's left out in this book. I do, however, like the fluency of this book. I like the way it reads, and I like the simplicity. The rituals in this book are almost more complicated than the rituals in The Magician. So I talked in the past in a previous video about how there's going to be a reissue coming up around Christmas time or a little after Christmas where you can get a copy of this book, the second edition, for around $80. Contact me if you're interested in learning more about that. I'm going to get the second edition, but I love having the first edition. I love the artwork. I love this book. This was my reward after years and years and years of struggling, trying to, I used to read the Lesser Key of Solomon and the Greater Key of Solomon and the Grimorium Verum, and I used to read about voodoo and all this other stuff, trying to find a legitimate system of magic that works. Even, reading Aleister Crowley and reading MacGregor Mathers and, some of the Golden Dawn material and the OTO. In my opinion, some of that stuff I just said you may be familiar with and you may not be familiar with, but we'll talk about what all that stuff is in the near future, what the Golden Dawn is and the OTO. I think most of the stuff on magic, even the stuff from those secret societies, is riddled with superstition, is riddled with mental illness. So, after struggling for a good, I got into magic when I was probably 8 years old, casting spells and things like that. So since high school, I've been struggling to find this book since high school, and it finally paid off. This is proof that there's legitimate authors out there producing legitimate content on the art and science of magic. But the Inner Temple, you guys, this is a $13 book that can be obtained on Amazon Prime. I would buy one while you can. And if anything, just get this book just to have in your collection. Again, the rituals in this book are somewhat complicated, but it does discuss the Inner Temple. And the Inner Temple, ladies and gentlemen, is a meditative exercise that I use daily, where you travel into the inner labyrinth of your mind and you come into contact with your subconscious mind. All magical systems that I've studied and practiced in the past, and I've studied them for years, have neglected this most crucial point. The subconscious mind is how magic works, ladies and gentlemen. If you are unaware of what the subconscious mind is and want to learn more, go back into my video archive in the magical arts section and watch lessons 1 and 2. But, all magical systems neglect this. And it's a simple exercise where you close your mind and you get calm. and you can light a candle or whatnot, and you travel. There's this door in front of you with certain symbology on it, and you put your hand on it mentally, and you travel into this room, and each person's inner temple is different. I don't think any two are the same. Mine is going to look completely different than yours, and this is a secret place for your eyes only, for your heart only, where you go and you can work with your mind and your subconscious mind and work out all of the issues that may be affecting your life and keeping you from being able to manifest and have whatever it is that your heart desires. Anytime you live in a reality where you have desires in your heart that you can't manifest, I mean, that's a hell. That's a hell reality, and I don't want to live in that reality. And that's why I use magic. Because I'm responsible enough of a human to realize that the issues in my life I've created and cultivated through negative thinking, negative feeling, and bad, erroneous beliefs that have been programmed into my mind since a young age. Magic is the art of cleansing the mind. Once you cleanse your mind, your body's going to react massively to it, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people are focusing on health from a purely physical standpoint. Some of the healthiest, quote-unquote, healthiest gurus on the internet right now have probably never even made contact with their subconscious mind, have never really gone in and critically self-analyzed the way that their minds are affecting not only themselves, but other people around them. So the mind is essentially the key to magic. And the inner temple exercise is how you begin communicating with your subconscious mind. In your inner temple, it has 4 walls, and there's an encircled cross on the floor. There can be. An encircled cross is one of these. I'll talk about this a little bit more in just a few minutes. This is a very important symbol in magic, probably the most important. And there are 4 doors on there's 4 doors in your inner temple, one on each wall, and one represents each wall represents a different element, because in magic we use the 4 elements. We use east, which is air, we use south, which is fire, we use west, which is water, and we use north, which is earth. We use the 4 elements to change our lives. We also use 2 other key components, which are the heaven force, which is representative of the crown, and we also use the mother force, or the earth force, or Gaia, which is representative of the castle, or in magic, most people focus on purely just the 4 elements, but there's 2 other key components that are essential for you to use the elements properly, and that is the father energy and the mother energy. But I just want to give you guys a brief synopsis of what the inner temple is. On each wall in the inner temple, and there's 4 of them, each wall represents a different element, and there's a door on each wall where we can come into contact with all of the elements. So there's 4 walls, 4 doors. The eastern wall is governed by, again, air, which in ritual magic or elemental magic, air is symbolized by the sword. Fire is symbolized by the staff or the spear. Water is symbolized by the chalice. And earth is symbolized by the shield. And we use these symbols mentally and physically, because a real magician will use the tools that we use in magic. Like, I have a chalice, a sword, all that stuff, but we use that as a physical reminder to tap into the mental world, because all magic is in the mind. But again, in elemental magic, these items, they're known as the elemental weapons. These are the tools that we use to control the elements, which are the elements. The 4 elements are basically the fundamental primordial building blocks of how spirit creates matter. It's so much more. But this is how we actually affect the world around us, through the subconscious mind, through the elemental, tapping into the elements, ladies and gentlemen. It's much more than that. I'm trying to make these things sound simple. It's not that easy. But on the middle of the inner temple, there's an encircled cross, and there's a pool in the middle filled full of a special fluid. It's not water. It's iridescent. It reflects multiple different colors. This is your subconscious mind. And you can scry into this pool, or stare into it in meditation and look into it and receive oracles and information. Your subconscious mind will communicate with you. and we heal ourselves by communicating with our subconscious mind. But in order for us to do that, we have to have a legitimate system of being able to do that. And most 99.999% of magical systems that I've studied, everything other than Philip Cooper's, have left this crucial step out. In the inner temple, this is also how we tap into the planetary energies, and the planets are used heavily in magic. They represent different energies that we can tap into, ladies and gentlemen, for specific purposes. For instance, Mars is the planet of energy. It's the planet of confidence. It's the planet of forward motion. It's the planet of courage, bravery, taking risks. We can invoke the energy of Mars into the inner temple and communicate with it subconsciously. Now, obviously, this is, again, I can't really explain the mechanics on how to do this because it's kind of a subjective topic. Every person's going to react or approach the planetary energies, but again, everyone is going to approach this differently. Now, you may be wondering why can't you just tell us how to do it? Well, this is going to require some research, some study, and some effort. Effort is the one thing that this is how most people will fail with magic, is through effort. It requires a serious amount of effort and dedication. We live in a world where most people don't want to stay committed to something. Personally, I use the planet Saturn. I invoke the planetary energy of Saturn, and I give offerings to Saturn, and I meditate on Saturn in my inner temple and learn things from Saturn through magical rites on how to stay committed and dedicated to this craft, because it's not something that's necessarily easy. But the inner temple, ladies and gentlemen, this is how you come into contact with the four elemental forces of creation. And it's also how you come into contact with your subconscious mind, which is the key to magic. It's how you come into contact with the planetary energies and all magical energies. Now, the encircled cross, and again, if you want to learn about the inner temple and how to communicate or tap into it and start going into the inner temple, and you don't want to spend a ton of money on Philip Cooper's books, you can buy Candle Magic, and he also has a book called Esoteric Magic in the Kabbalah. It's got like a whitish gray cover with red writing, and those two books are still in print. But essentially, this book is what I would recommend above all else. But also, the techniques of magic, he discusses it as well. Interesting book, very cool. I discussed in magic we use symbolism because the language of the subconscious mind is symbolism, and in order for magic to work, we're affecting the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind I've talked about before. I'll kind of give you guys a brief synopsis of what it is, but I talk about that and break it down in the Learning the Magical Arts Lesson 1 and 2. The subconscious mind, ladies and gentlemen, is the part of our minds that operates behind the conscious recognition of the conscious mind. Subconscious mind is what keeps our heartbeat fluctuating. The subconscious mind regulates our heartbeat, regulates physiological functions. The subconscious mind is what heals your body when you get injured, if you get cut. I mean, think about it. Your conscious mind does not heal yourself when you get like a cut on your arm. When you get a cut on your arm, your subconscious mind communicates information to your physical body and causes that cut to heal. The subconscious mind has no limits. It has no boundaries. It has no, again, limitations. It can bring you anything that you want in life. But in order to realize that, we have to have a system of reprogramming the subconscious mind, and we do that with magic. But only the correct forms of magic, because 99% of the magic in the books about magic on the market will make you confused and will riddle you with superstition and make it so you just feel hopeless. Most magic is garbage. Absolute garbage. All these old medieval grimoires that are filled full, these magical books and spell books that are filled full of confusion and duality and right from wrong and devils and angels. It's just ridiculous. I talked about the inner temple a little bit. Pick up Candle Magic or any of his other books to learn more about the inner temple and how to use it. It's very important. I use physical rituals, pentagram rituals, and things like that, candle magic, in conjunction with the inner temple exercise. I open up my temple and I do physical rituals, and then I go into my inner temple mentally, and then I really work on myself. And I work with my subconscious mind. Beautiful, beautiful thing, ladies and gentlemen. I talked about the encircled cross. I've talked about this before and why this is so important. Now, the encircled cross is a symbol that the subconscious mind understands, because again, the language of the subconscious is the symbolism. Your subconscious mind doesn't understand words. It understands emotions behind words. It understands symbology. But it does understand this symbol. Now, this symbol, ladies and gentlemen, is important because it represents the 4 cardinal points. It represents the 4 primordial, primary energies that spirit uses to manifest things into matter and material. It represents the 4 elements. It represents the 4 seasons, the 4 cycles of the moon. It represents the 4 elements. I think I said that already. It represents, if you look at air, fire, earth, and water, air is the 4 seasons. Air is governed by dawn. It is governed by spring. And, it governs the new moon. South, summer and noon. Its primordial fundamental force is strong nuclear force, and its matter is energy. So I'm not going to really break this down in this video, but very, very important symbol right here. And this is inside of the inner temple. When we travel into our mind, this is on the floor of our temple. And in the middle, that's where the pool is that represents your subconscious mind. That's what this point represents, ladies and gentlemen, where these 4 points meet. That represents your connection to source. That represents your fundamental power. You are a creative entity. You are godlike. We've just forgotten that, ladies and gentlemen. Magic is the art and science of remembering that so that we can create a life so we don't have to live in this crazy pig pen of a matrix where you have to work every day and you have to have all these poverty or just all this, so many people are so struck by the obligations out here in the matrix are ridiculous. You will spend the majority of your life working a job that you hate. For what? So that you can just make it? So you can barely make it? That's something wrong with that, ladies and gentlemen. That sounds like a hell realm. Magic is how we can separate ourselves from that and write our own destinies. Magic teaches you that you are not at the whim of circumstance. You create your own reality. So, another book that I've just recently started reading, and I'm pretty much plowing through it, is The Disciple's Guide to Ritual Magic, you guys. A Beginner's Introduction to into the High Art by Frater Barabas, I think that's how you pronounce it. This book is incredible. I was a little skeptical about buying this at first. It was $20 new. And I was skeptical because a lot of the books on magic are just very superstitious and garbage, but this is a diamond amongst the rough. These 2 authors, incredible stuff. This Philip Cooper's books are very simple. They're very easy to understand, and that's what I'll always be so thankful for his works. He makes the subject so easy to understand. This is more of like a college course on ritual magic, on ceremonial magic. He has some very interesting definitions, the way he defines magic, where essentially, you're using ritual to alter your consciousness and tap into the infinite energy of spirit. And you're tapping into spirit and you're drawing spirit. How would I explain it? Ritual magic is not only, ladies and gentlemen, the art and science of controlled thought to obtain a physical result. It's also the art of tapping into the infinite well, the infinite spring of spirit, of the subconscious mind, of the creative energy of the universe. It permeates everything. Now, in ritual magic, you do certain rituals to tap into that energy. and you bring that energy into the physical world, into your conscious recognition. Now, most people will never be in contact with this energy of spirit because they're only operating on 3 levels: body, mind, and spirit or soul. So most people operate, ladies and gentlemen, what I was leaving off on, what I left off, excuse me, I left off by saying that most people operate on body, mind, and spirit, but it's usually just body and mind. Most people don't stimulate spirit or experience spirit unless through things like, near-death experiences or random states of, like, for instance, spontaneous Kundalini awakenings, things like that. But there's body, mind, and spirit. But then there's also, ladies and gentlemen, the psychic levels of existence of the human mind. There's the subtle levels of the human existence or human mind, and then there's the causal. We'll talk about that in the near future, but essentially with magic, ladies and gentlemen, you're tapping into spirit through using certain rituals and meditation, and you're bringing that into your conscious mind, into your reality. And by doing that, because when you tap into spirit through ritual, it affects your normal patterns of consciousness, of mind. Most people are used to following the same patterns every day that are just operating on the body and the mind. When you tap into spirit through meditation and rituals, such as pentagram rituals, which are discussed in The Magician, the pentagram ritual is very important. And I'm not talking about the lesser banishing ritual, or the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, which is absolutely flawed. If you're watching this and you've ever heard of what's known as the LBRP, or the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, in my opinion, that is highly flawed, and it will actually deplete you of your energy. But the proper pentagram rituals are discussed in The Magician. I may do a video on how to do those in the near future, depending on how many people enjoy these videos and want to learn more. But by using things like pentagram rituals and meditations and smells and scents, and by tapping into the movements of the moon and whatnot, when you use these rituals, you're coming into contact with raw power through spirit. And you're drawing that in through ritual into your conscious mind to create change. So if a human being who only usually operates on body and mind starts doing magical, ceremonial magic, where you're doing different ceremonies and rituals and meditations, and you come into contact with the elemental powers and spirit, what happens is that you start funneling spirit into your body and your mind, and that causes your paradigm or your energy loops that you're so used to operating on here in this physical dimension. It causes your body and your mind's mental and physical and physiological loops, emotional loops, to be endowed and encumbered with spirit. And I don't mean encumbered by meaning like weighed down. I just mean that when you siphon spirit into your body and mind, you start to create radical change, because now you are inviting into your conscious mind, into your body and your mind, something that is very pure. Spirit is pure. So it's not uncommon for people, once they start to do pentagram rituals and ceremonial magic and these meditations, to experience drastic change in their mentality and their patterns and their habits. It's not uncommon for people, once they start practicing legitimate magic, ceremonial magic, ritual magic, and things of that nature, it's not uncommon for people who smoke cigarettes to, after just a few rituals, completely lose all desire to smoke. It's not uncommon for people who are alcoholics and things of that nature, once they're exposed to spirit, the vast, infinite, world of spirit through ritual magic, it's not uncommon for these people to quit drinking and doing all the other things in their life that are destroying them. Once you invite spirit into your life through magic, and spirit is associated with the subconscious mind, it changes everything, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the other way ritual works, ladies and gentlemen, is that ritual is highly symbolic. It's also a very emotional thing. When you do rituals in a room that has a temple, like an altar set up, and you light candles, you're creating a space that is very outside of the norm. And when you do the same thing every day here in this material world, most people are not very accustomed to a ritual setting. So every day they get to go to work, they do things that are very similar every day. But magic puts you in an environment that is very outside of your normal environment, with candles and smells and odors and drama and chanting words and meditation. Because it's so much different than your day-to-day patterns, once you start entering these ritual settings and doing these things, the rituals are so different than what you're normally doing on a day-to-day basis that it directly affects your mind. And it affects your subconscious mind and starts to create new patterns based on those rituals and how they affect your mind. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So ritual magic works, ladies and gentlemen, to a large extent by you're using certain. It's very hard to explain. Rituals. Most people don't use ritual. Most people do, again, the same thing every day, sometimes with subtle differences, subtle nuances. But when you start tapping in to ritual and you start doing the inner temple exercise, and you start doing the pentagram rituals, these rituals are so symbolically potent that your subconscious mind understands what you're doing and starts to create a different energy loop of your consciousness based on how powerful these rituals are. Because again, you're using pentagrams in some cases, you're using the encircled cross, you're endowing your rituals with emotion. These things directly affect your conscious mind because you're inviting spirit into your world, into your life. And ritual and spirit go hand in hand. Magic is a direct way to tap in to spirit and invite it into your conscious life, conscious mind. And by doing so, you illuminate your conscious mind, which is normally not connected to spirit. You illuminate your conscious mind with spirit. And that has a massive effect on your consciousness and your mind and your behaviors and your patterns and even the way you speak. Because now you're inviting something into your mind, into your conscious world that is more pure than what you're used to. I hope that makes sense. Spirit is infinite. It's pure. It's the source that we come from. It's the subconscious mind. When you invite that into your world, it causes you to change. Because again, most people are not connected to spirit. They live in a world that is dominated by three existential bodies, so to speak. Body, mind, and spirit. But it's usually just body and mind. But once you start stimulating, bringing spirit into your world, then you start activating the psychic levels of your mind, and so on and so forth. The psychic, subtle, and causal levels. But you'll have to excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see here. I thought there was a picture. Bear with me one moment, guys. See, the pentagram ritual is discussed in The Magician. You go into your ritual room or your chamber and you start carving these pentagrams, 4 of them, each for 1 elemental quarter. And you connect all the pentagrams mentally. And now you're standing inside of a spiritual shield of pentagrams. And the pentagram, the conscious mind understands, the subconscious mind understands the pentagram. So every day, if you go into your room, your temple, and you start using these pentagrams rituals, your subconscious mind begins to recognize this ritual as a master key, a master template for stimulating your subconscious mind. This stuff works through repetition. This is the art and the science of how the law of attraction works, ladies and gentlemen, and it requires work and effort. This is true healing because it encompasses all levels of healing, not just that of the body. Healing the body is much easier than healing the mind, ladies and gentlemen, because oftentimes to heal the body, all you have to do is change the fuel source that you're putting into your body. But to heal your mind, to change your mind, to invite spirit into your conscious mind, and to really connect and create a relationship to your subconscious mind, that requires effort, diligence, hard work, patience, dedication, commitment. I think I said that already. And really just becoming infatuated and obsessed with this, with magic. Magic is the art and the science of life. So to answer that person's question who asked, wow, I thought this was a healing channel. What's with all the talk about magic? Well, ladies and gentlemen, healing, physical healing, which is what I talk often about on the Patreon page and on my YouTube channel, is just a subtle aspect of the overall science of magic, which is healing on all levels: emotional, spiritual, physical, psychic, causal, subtle levels, healing of the energetic bodies of our existence, the aura. All of this stuff can be addressed through magic, because magic is a genius tool. It is a template. It is a doctrine of correspondences. It is a complete system of healing, and not just the physical body, but the emotional and all the other levels. It's also a direct way to tap into the infinite pool of energy that animates everything, also known as spirit, or the God force, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I've thought about showing you guys in the past my ritual setups and, you know, my altar and whatnot, but I think that magic is a very personal thing, and I think some things should be kept personal. So that might change in the future. I'm not 100% sure. I have no problem discussing magic and showing you guys certain things, but that may sound really impersonal, but it's not, because, again, magic is a personal thing. So, again, that may change in the future, but we'll see. I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that I won't show you guys rituals and things like that, but like right now I'm working a specific ritual with the new moon, and I was like, should I show them the altar and whatnot? But it's like, I think some things should be kept personal. I think your magic should be kept personal, and I think mine should to some extent as well. So I hope that doesn't come off rude or anything like that. That's just my current stance on the situation. But to summarize things, you guys, we've talked about magic for about 50 minutes now, so now we're going to deviate into some health discussions. I hope that you guys are enjoying the discussions on magic. I love the subject. It's so fascinating to me. But to summarize things, you guys, there are so many different ways to define magic, but the core of magic is the communication and connection with your subconscious mind. It is the art and science of controlled thinking to obtain things, ladies and gentlemen, and we do that by developing a deep relationship to our mind and our subconscious mind, and we do that through rituals, symbology, smells, odors, things like that, because the language of the subconscious mind is symbolism. Magic can also be defined as the art and science of tapping into the infinite pool, or the infinite pool of creative energy that comprises everything in the universe, all of creation, also known as spirit. And with magic, we tap into spirit through ritual and pentagram rituals and different symbols. We create elaborate altars, and we do candle spells and things like that to tap into the power of spirit and bring it into our physical lives. And by doing that, we become endowed with the brilliant energy of spirit, and we siphon spirit into our conscious recognition. And by doing that, it has massive effects on our conscious minds that are so used to just operating on body and mind, not spirit. But ritual magic, ritual magic, ladies and gentlemen, is what I practice. Ceremonial magic. We're doing ceremonies and rituals to not only tap into our subconscious mind, but to tap into the spiritual aspect of the subconscious mind, spirit. And when you bring these things into your life, when you're used to just operating on the two levels of existence, body and mind, you just get overwhelmed with this absolutely transformational energy known as spirit. And it's not uncommon for people to have massive changes in their life immediately. I've healed addiction with magic. I've done a lot of incredible things that most people would say that that's crazy. And that's because when you invite spirit into your world, it illuminates your patterns with the guiding hand of love and spirit, and it shows you how to change your energy loops. Most of us are operating on energy loops that are addictive patterns. Most of us operate on a day-to-day loop. Most of us have a very similar routine every day that we've turned into a addiction. When we invite spirit into our life through ritual work and magic, it illuminates our day-to-day patterns and agitates a response in us to create new patterns that are more beneficial to our life, more transformational. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. But I've been talking now for about an hour, you guys, and at this point I usually start to stumble and things like that. I don't know why it is that after I talk for a prolonged period, I start to kind of stutter and whatnot, but it is what it is. Let's deviate from magic for a little while, and let's go on to talking about herbs. Again, I wanted to talk about Gynostemma pentaphyllum. This is a herb in traditional Chinese medicine that has become one of the 27 tonic herbs, and it hasn't really gotten that much notoriety and recognition until the last 140, 150 years, which is really interesting because most of the tonic herbs of traditional Chinese medicine have been cultivated and used and experimented with and rigorously analyzed over a 1,000-year period. So for an herb like Gynostemma to come in and within 150 years make its way into the tonic herb system, the 27 superior herbs, is miraculous. This may or may not be the greatest herb on this planet, ladies and gentlemen, for longevity and slowing down the aging process. This and Schizandra, in my opinion, are probably, it looks like these two herbs are probably two of the most powerful herbs in conjunction with things like astragalus root and lycium, also known as goji berry. Properly cultivated goji berry is incredibly powerful. Most people have never had real goji berries because 99% of the goji berries in the West are dyed or grown improperly, you name it. It's very unfortunate. This is more powerful, according to the research. It looks like it's more powerful than ginseng, and ginseng for hundreds of years has been revered as the most powerful anti-aging constituent in the world. Ginseng is high in what's known as ginsenosides. They are powerful constituents that have a adaptogenic quality to the human mind and body. And what an adaptogen is, ladies and gentlemen, is something that helps us adapt to stress. It helps our body and our mind adapt to stress. Gynostemma has 144 chemical constituents that are adaptogenic. Now, it appears that 4 of these constituents, these adaptogenic constituents, are identical to that of ginseng. Identical. Now, Gynostemma is miraculous, ladies and gentlemen, because of just how powerful of an effect it has on our lungs and our minds. It has such a strong adaptogenic quality. Now, what's beautiful about the adaptogenic herbs is that, again, they help us adapt to stress. They help us adapt to the crazy world that we live in. That's a very beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful tool to have, especially when many of the herbs and things like that, ladies and gentlemen, they don't have an adaptogenic quality. They just may have some nutritional constituents or this and that. But an adaptogen is in a class of its own because it helps you adapt. It helps your body and mind adapt to stress. And stress mitigation is very important. It's the key to long life. It's the key to health, is to remove stress and enter a state of peace. Otherwise, you're constantly going to be producing cortisol and stress hormones, stress constituents in your body. Alrighty, you guys. So I have some of my notes on Gynostemma to the left. Now, I do my best to remember everything. And I have studied this herb quite extensively, but some things I'm not fresh on mentally. So I want to just kind of give you guys a brief rundown on my notes and what I have to say about Gynostemma in my notes. Now, this is the current brand of Gynostemma I'm using. Gynostemma is in one of my favorite herbal teas known as Spring Dragon Longevity Tea. It's probably the healthiest probably the healthiest tea on the planet right now. But this is affordable. This is $8 for 100 bags. And to be honest, I've had some amazing results with this cheaper variety of Gynostemma. Gynostemma is incredible for the lungs, ladies and gentlemen. And for those who don't know, in Chinese medicine, your lungs are directly associated with your life force. If your lungs are, not completely healthy, then you're really going to lose a lot of your mental power and your emotional power and your vibrancy. A lot of people have smoked. A lot of people still smoke. And if you currently still smoke or have smoked, you need a Gynostemma cleanse, ladies and gentlemen. Drinking warm Gynostemma on an empty stomach, you can actually feel it start to stimulate your upper lung. And you'll notice that you'll start breathing deeper. You can feel your lungs regenerating. It's a miraculous herb because it stimulates and helps tonify and heal the lungs, and it also stimulates the three treasures. It doesn't stimulate them as strong as Schisandra, the three treasures of healing, the Jing, the Shen, and the Qi, but it still stimulates them. But in my notes, you guys, well, yes, it has a slightly bitter and sweet taste. Gynostemma does. It stimulates the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, the heart, and the spleen. And in Chinese medicine, it has a 5-star rating, which means this is a superior herb. Yes, Gynostemma has massive amounts of saponins, ladies and gentlemen. Saponins are incredibly powerful nutritional constituents, and the saponin content in Gynostemma is just absolutely through the roof. It appears that in certain parts of the world, Gynostemma is known as poor man's ginseng because it costs a fraction of what ginseng costs, and it's just as powerful, if not more powerful than ginseng. I have mixed opinions about ginseng, although I have been consuming it regularly every day. I think that Gynostemma is a more effective herb for a very cheaper cost. In China, you guys, in China, ladies and gentlemen, Gynostemma is used to slow down aging and prevent feebleness at all ages. One second. Right. People, sounds like people are out front. Just wanted to close the door, but for preventing feebleness at all ages. There's the parts of the world where people consume Gynostemma most regularly. There's more octogenarians and centenarians than any other part of the world. So you'll have to excuse me again, you guys. I'm a little I get a little loopy after I've talked in front of the camera for more than an hour. But it's used to prevent senility, to reduce fatigue and increase vigor, and to radically and efficiently and quickly increase the amount of oxygen in your system, and that's crucial. Increasing the amount of oxygen in your system is really why Gynostemma, in my opinion, is so beneficial. It calms the nerves. It's a miraculous adaptogen. It's probably the most powerful, one of the most powerful adaptogens on the planet. And the chemical constituents that are responsible largely for the adaptogenic qualities of Gynostemma are saponins, known as gypenicides. And gypenicides, ladies and gentlemen, are incredibly interesting. Gynostemma contains more than 80 different gypenicides. That is the broadest range of saponins in any single plant on the world, or in the world. Ginseng has 36 saponins known as ginsenicides. And astragalus, which is another tonic herb, which I love, has about 32 saponins known as astragalicides. So the people who drink this refer to it as magical grass. And what's beautiful about Gynostemma is that it's an all-around healing herb for almost all ailments. This is something that can bring balance to your life. I love how it's shaped like a pentagram as well. With my fascination with Magick pentaphyllum, Gynostemma pentaphyllum, it actually looks like a pentagram. And I think there's some really interesting associations with the symbology of that. The fact that it brings balance to the emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical aspects of your life to a large extent are very closely related to the magical qualities of a pentagram. It's cheap, it's effective, it makes your lungs feel amazing, it helps your mind empty all of its clutter, it helps you stay stable when normally you would feel like falling apart. This is a beautiful herb, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that I highly recommend, and this is something that I drink 3 to 6 cups of every day, if not more. Gynostemma is one of the safest herbs. It has so many different health benefits. It's filled full of saponins. It helps regenerate and bring balance to the lungs. It has moderate effect on the 3 treasures, not as strongly as the herb Schisandra, but it tonifies the organs. It helps balance out digestive issues, ladies and gentlemen. It can help you massively to bring balance back to the digestive system if you have issues with constipation. But I think what really is interesting to me most about Gynostemma is its effect on the mind and the stress, and that's because it has large amount of active constituents known as saponins that are known as gypenicides. And I believe Gynostemma has over 144 of these different amazing adaptogenic constituents. 144, whereas ginseng has about 35 to 36. Gynostemma is something that I plan on growing in the near future. Once I manifest this piece of property, either in California or, depending on, I might aim for Arizona. I'm not 100% sure yet, but I plan on creating potentially a sanctuary where like-minded people can come and live together, and we can all garden and create a paradise. But I want to wrap this one up, you guys. You can find this at most Asian markets. $8 for 100 bags. Can't beat that. Try it. See how you like it. Try it for a month. See if your life doesn't change drastically. Because mine, when I started using Gynostemma, it's like, bam. Gynostemma, Schizandra, astragalus, reishi mushroom, cordyceps mushroom, snow lotus. These are some of the most interesting things that you can put into your body, because they not only affect the body, but they affect the mind drastically, and they can lead to heightened states of spiritual consciousness. I'm going to wrap this one up, you guys. I don't want to keep producing content because the quality is going downhill quickly, because I can't keep up. My mouth can't keep up with my mind. But until next time, peace be with you all.